Hello everybody, I'm Steve and welcome to Green Side Up. Alright, I've started work on this pond today and it's a muddy mess, to be honest. I shouldn't have started it. I knew what I was letting myself in for because the ground is absolutely saturated. You can see from here, and I'll give you a close-up in a minute, but it's filling up with water as I dig it. It's that wet here, but we'll crack on with it because I'm wanting to get this done so that I can move the spoil out of the way and get this ground prepared, ready for planting in spring. I don't want to be doing this in spring and taking 4 or 5 days out of my normal planting schedule. I'm trying to make everything as easy as I possibly can so that come spring everything flies through, you know, nice and simple. So I'm getting this done. I've dug down about, I don't know, it must be 15 inches so far, straight down, big square or rectangular pond, and I've done it rectangular in case I change my mind later and I want to change it. I can make it into a formal pond. I can rip everything out of the pond, start again and surround it and make a formal pond if that's the way I want to go later on. But essentially this is being dug because I want a wildlife attracting pond and I want this facility here for the wildlife. So I mean, I'll round off the corners by planting in it and so on and so forth. The only thing I've got left to do now is dig a hole in the middle, I don't know, 2 or 3 foot square in the middle, just to lower the level down to about 2 foot or just past 2 foot, and then I can put the liner in and then the pond liner on top of that. So that's where we're at now. I'll just give you a quick look over it. Okay, so here's a little bit of a better view of it, and I'll just walk along. You'll hear squelching as I walk through the puddles here, and you can see how wet it is. I mean, I finished digging that out 10 minutes ago, and you can see how much water's collecting already. I expect by tomorrow morning to be a big puddle there, and there's the spoil heap. That's good, I can use that elsewhere. That'll all get moved by barrow later. We just need to dig a hole down in the middle, down to about 2 foot. Then I've got 2 levels in this pond. So that's where we're at for now. I've made a start on this pond yesterday and couldn't quite get as far as I wanted to, so had to leave it overnight, come back today to face it. So it's all dug out roughly the size that I want, and I've got a nice deep hole in the middle. And sort of around the edges it's a spit deep, and in the middle again another spit deep. Unfortunately, with the weather being so wet at the minute, it's filled up, so now I've got to bail this out which I was expecting really. So, but once this is bailed out, I can carry on and hopefully get this liner in today, which will be nice. Right, so there we go. We're down to the hole now. Yeah, we'll crack on now. So there we go, the liner's roughly in. Time to get the pond liner over the top. It's taking some time, but it's starting to fill up now. So while this pond fills up, I'll explain what's going on here. This will be a smallish pond, roughly 5 foot by 5 foot. It'd be 2 foot deep in the middle, which is ample for a small pond like this. Now it has created this massive spoil pile here. That's going to be moved down the back of the plot to where I need to raise the land slightly for the new polytunnel. So that's helpful. It just needs barrowing out once the pond's full and relatively finished. Later on, after that's moved, there'll be some of this pond liner left over on this side, which will be dug into the soil underneath so that I can have some wet loving plants in there and hopefully keep it a little bit on the boggy side. So that will be the transition between normal planting, which will be along this little strip here, and say the marshy area, and then some pond plants in here. I've got the 2 levels in the pond. At the moment there is no sloping sides at all, and maybe some people have already seen that and they're thinking, well, how is wildlife going to get out? Well, there will be some structures going in the pond which will enable that. So could be a log on its side or something going down to the deepest area, so that anything that falls in can crawl its way back out. So that will also be sorted. This bit up the end is for the new wildlife area. More of that when that happens. It's just a fun item. Should be a bit of a talking point. But we'll go down the back of the plot now, because this is the first pond. But it's the only pond I'm going to be doing in this year, I think. So we'll have a walk around. Okay, we're at the back of the plot now. Those of you who have subscribed for a while now know my plans out here, but I'll just recap briefly. All this stuff on this bed, this is my main flower bed. All this stuff is paraphernalia, if you like, that hangs around the plot, and mostly it was down that fence line where there's a bit of a path. And I've moved it all out because this land is going to be landscaped. Where I'm pointing the camera now needs to be raised about a foot. So that spoil heap from there will help with that. And the rest of the land, the rest of the soil that I need will come from that fence. I'm going to dig down about a foot there just to level this ground off before I put the polytunnel. Now the polytunnel will only come roughly 2/3 of the way up here, leaving me roughly the area that you can see in the frame now, which will be a working area, and that's where the second pond is going. So the first pond is on the other side of the polytunnel here, which you can see here. The second pond will be here, and the third pond will either be in that far corner or in that far corner. So we've got this repetition of pond, growing area, pond, growing area, and then pond over there. And then eventually, so that's 3 ponds, eventually I will possibly make a 4th pond right the way down at the very front of the plot. So there will be 4 ponds on the site, connecting it with wildlife, pollinators, pest control. So that's the overall plan. I say the second pond here maybe happen this next season. I'll just take it over and show you something. So over in this area, underneath all this wire and mess at the moment, is my comfrey patch. That makes all my feed for throughout the year, so I don't need to go and buy tomato feed, that sort of thing. And in that corner, we've got this big bathtub, and it's got a kind of a rounded, swelled end there. That's perfect for a pond. A small pond liner in that, just to keep it waterproof and covered and cover the white. And that little pond will go up the top of this polytunnel area next to the polytunnel. So that's pond number 2. Pond number 3, once all this area is cleared out, which it will be this next year, the only thing left will be this comfrey area here. Then a 3rd and bigger pond will go down here, because I'll see if we can get round so you can see just over the fence here, the back of my plot. My plot actually goes across to be on the other side of that tree. And this down here, this little beck, this little stream down here, is actually part of my plot. Now, I need to work it out, but I am thinking of doing something, using this beck in some way that connects to that pond. Not sure how yet, but that'll take some figuring out. But I want to use this water in here and this bigger wildlife pond that will be somewhere along this area, and connect them up somehow together. But that's a much bigger project, and I certainly won't be doing it in the middle of winter when it's all wet. This little pond I've been doing today is a bit of a nightmare. So that's where we're up to with these so far. Okay, so I'm just going to have a quick look at this pond now. Now look at this. This is a pathway, would you believe? But anyway, here's the pond. It's now full. And you can see that back edge is a little bit raised, whereas the water's just about coming out down this edge. It's because it's not quite level. This front edge does need a little bit of banking up and down the side there, just so that I can get the level up a little bit deeper. But for now, this is done. I really wanted to do it to get this soil out and use this soil elsewhere. And I can do all the tartan and sitivation with this later. The main thing is I've got it in and I can move on and crack on with something else now. So that's it for this one. That pond is now mostly done. Now I can start tidying up around it. The titivating can take anywhere between 6 weeks to 6 years, and I'll just move on with it. The main body of it's done, and I can move that soil, clean up around it, finish the path off, and I'm good to go really. So that's the plans moving forward. There is a wildlife structure to go in at the end. That will be happening into January. But for now, Happy New Year everyone, and I'll see you soon. Stay safe, look after yourselves. Ta-ra now.